I'm a great believer. One of the books I wrote was on insight, and I'm a great believer. Insight is often just serendipity. So I don't want to get into sort of too much Carl Jung, but I think an awful lot of things happen in the brain by accident, and that's how you get insight. I often answer this question by saying I didn't really have much of a plan, which is ironic because my first career was in advertising agencies as a planner, what's called an account planner, strategist. But before that, I was a classicist. I spent 4 years studying Latin, Greek, and ancient history, and it was a great shock to an awful lot of people I knew when I moved from studying Virgil, Homer, and Catullus to trying to sell cars. Um, but I thought I'd give it sort of 6 months and see what I thought. And I did that for 17 years.
Wow.
And then I got to the stage where I got bored with the fact that the answer to every question was a 40-second television commercial. And I'd always wanted to write because I liked writing and speaking. So I sort of took a different direction. And again, I thought I'd give it 6 months to try and present and train and lecture. And I've been doing that for, again, about sort of 20 years now. So I've always sort of looked at things and thought, okay, what do I find interesting? And what can I look at that might take me into a direction that I find insightful and unexpected? And even at my venerable age, I'm still trying to follow the same process, really.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I thought it was so curious when I heard about your background in classics. I guess my question is, what was the catalyst that sort of ignited that interest to move from classics to behavioral economics? Or I guess initially it was advertising, like you had shared.
Yeah, I mean, it's quite interesting. Excuse me, circle here. I'm going to go with Disney. I'm not careful. Which is, I started off doing classics. I went into advertising, and the last book, my newest book, which is coming out in about 6 months, I've just written, is the classical marketing book.
Ooh.
Greeks and Romans can teach us about marketing, which my publisher, in both his wisdom and I think possibly slightly madness, thinks there is a market for. Because what I wanted to look at was, as somebody who, as you said, has always been interested in storytelling, and that is the thread, what I call the golden thread, that pretty much runs through my life, whether I know it or not. I've always thought that, having studied Roman history, Greek history, that the fall of the Roman Republic, death of Caesar, Alexander the Great, these are great characters and great stories. So I think, possibly with a bit of hindsight, when I went into advertising, I thought, okay, what's the link here? And I think the link is propaganda. So whatever word you want to call, influence, persuasion, manipulation, coercion, propaganda. I was, looking at the speech that Mark Antony gave after Caesar died, or I'm looking at Alexander trying to rally his troops in the Far East when they got to come home. And I realized that A, these are great stories, but B, these are examples of people trying to influence. I think that felt like something of a bridge between, as I say, pouring at Latin and Greek and philosophy and Socrates, and then suddenly finding myself, presenting to clients about an advertising idea for Weetabix. And as I say, it's sort of come full circle because I've decided to try and use some of those ideas and characters and stories in the latest book.